Alright, good morning everyone. We are here with break 464 and it is another 26 League Heroes retail combo break. It features the 26 League Heroes retail case, the 26 League Heroes retail starters case, as well as the bonuses, which is the 26 League Heroes hobby box and the 26 sticker album and box combo. These are randomised at the end of the break between all 17 teams, with the winner receiving them and their break cards sent out in the post. Our team list for this one: Broncos, Dean, Mick; Raiders, Gareth, Lawson; Bulldogs, Brianne, Mclauchlan; Sharks, Joel, Hardie; Dolphins, George, Grispos; Titans, Lee, Marschall; Manly, Dan, Menzies; Storm, Corey, McRoberts; Knights, George, Grispos; Cowboys, Corey, McRoberts; Eels, Craig Hyde; Panthers, Julian Pye; Rabbitohs, Scott McBride; Dragons, Scott McBride; Roosters, Scott McBride; Warriors, George Grispos; Tigers, Brianne McLaughlin. And here we are, ready to go. We have our bonuses here, just to show them off before we get started. We have the 26 League Heroes hobby box, the sticker box, and the sticker album, which also has the 5 bonus packs in it. Alright, let's bring up the YouTube chat. Last chance to remind everyone, well, I'll probably remind everyone again throughout the break, but we have our State of Origin Game 2 Pick the Score giveaway only in our Facebook group. So make sure you go and find that. Read the terms for entry before leaving your comment. Let's get these boxes out. Gift card is up to $125 for that one. And while we're talking, we currently have 2 breaks listed now with only 5 teams left still available. We will be listing our next break at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then 1 break every day for the next, well, till Friday. We've got 3 breaks to list, 1 each day for the next 3 days at 4 p.m. Queensland time. And if you haven't got your tips in for this week, remember the State of Origin game is included, so make sure you go and do that as quick as possible. Alright, we are ready to go. Morning, Lee. Box number 1. Let me refresh the chat. Let's go. Pack number 1. Mercury, Robert Toya for the Roosters. number 152. Harry Grant, Luminous for the Storm. Bang, Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous, Renato Mulatalo for the Sharks. League heads, Brighton McRoberts. Heard it properly said the other day, and I'm trying to remember. Jacob Saifiti, Luminous for the Knights, and that just did not come out right at all. Game breakers, Harry Grant for the Storm. Luminous, Zach Labut for Cowboys. League heads, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous, Loco Pacifici Tonga for the Dragons. Die cut, Eliza Katoa for Storm. Luminous, Luke Brooks for Manly. Game breakers, Jamie Chapman for Titans. Luminous, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. League heads, Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Bang, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous, Georgia Hale for the Titans. Game breakers, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous, Josh Kerr for the Dragons. Red Triumph for the Panthers. Luminous, Ruben Garrick for Manly. League heads, Chans Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Mitch Kenny for the Panthers. Game breakers, Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Die cuts, Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. League heads, Cam Munster for Storm. Luminous Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Game breakers, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Luminous Jalen de Groot for Titans. Bang Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. League heads, Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Luminous Cassie Hiku for the Eels. League heads, Keanu Kinney for Titans. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. Bang Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Jareem Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Cam Munster for Storm. League heads, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Luminous Brian Kelly for Titans. Latrell Mitchell, a die cut for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Bailey Simonson for the Eels. League heads, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Red Triumphs, Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Luminous Luciano Leilua for Dragons. League heads, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Game breakers, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Isaiah Papali'i for Panthers. Bang Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. League heads, Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. Luminous Alex Seyfarth for the Tigers. Die cuts Asaya Papali'i for Panthers. Luminous Keon Kolomatini for Rabbitohs. League heads Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous Ali Latua for the Warriors. Bang Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. Teddy for our Gladiators, number 434. Luminous Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Nafor White for the Roosters. Luminous Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Gold Triumph. Luminous Marky Mark for the Roosters. Making his debut for the Blues. Game Breakers, Alex Twal for the Tigers. Luminous Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. That is box 1 done and dusted. We still haven't confirmed who Jared P is in the tipping comp. So if we can't confirm him, well, we're just going to have to give it to Nathan. Bang, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Big Tino for the Titans. The only person that had that in our website, I even messaged them and asked, and wasn't them. So I'm not sure what else I can do from here. League heads Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous Kale Iro for the Sharks. Game Breakers Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. League heads, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Jason Saab for Manly. Game Breakers, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous, Ryan Pappenhausen for the Storm. Die cuts, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Gahamat Shabarski for the Broncos. League heads, Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Luminous, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Mercury, Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins, number 192. Luminous, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Lachlan Elias for the Dragons. Luminous, Keezy Apps for the Tigers. League heads, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Bang, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. League heads, Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Luminous, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Die cuts, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous, Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous, Isaac Tago for Panthers. Gladiators, Nafor White for Roosters, number 256. Alafiana Khan Piera for the Titans. League heads, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous, Addo Carr for the Eels. Die cuts, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Bang, Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Luminous, Sean Russell for the Eels. Game Breakers, Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous, Samaima Torfa for the Raiders. Bang, Chans Nicole Clockstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Tamir Martin for the Warriors. League Heads, Jake Trebojevic for Manly. Luminous, Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Die Cuts, Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Luminous, Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. League Heads, Reese Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Bang, Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Luminous, Dominic Young for the Knights. Red Triumph, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous, Molly Olika R2 for Manly. League Heads, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Bang, Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Luminous, Mawaki Fodawaika for Titans. Game Breakers, Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Luminous, Ali Brigginshaw for the Broncos. Die Cuts, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. League Heads, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Red Triumph for the Tigers. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. We're up to 4 packets left in box number 2. Game Breakers Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Chance Mclauchlan for the Warriors. League Heads Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. Game Breakers Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous William Kennedy for the Sharks. League Heads Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Luminous Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. And there we go. Tidy these ones up and we will get stuck into box number 3. Alright, let's go. Game Breakers Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous Liam Martin for Panthers. Die Cuts Cohen Hess for Cowboys. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. League Heads Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Luminous Luca Moretti for the Eels. Game Breakers Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous James Fisher Harris for the Warriors. Our instant win for today. Well, for the retail case anyway, you never know our luck in the starter case, how we might go, what we might hit. Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Bang Clinton Gufferson for the Dragons. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons. Game Breakers Nita Maynard for the Dragons. What's our last one? 469 is our last 26 League Heroes break, guys. That'll be close to 60 breaks in total for 26 League Heroes, which is obviously a variety. It wasn't just this type of break, it was hobby cases, retail cases, different combos, couple of starter packs and a box. But every one was at least a case, whether it was a hobby case or a retail case. League Heroes, League Heads, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Kale Iro for the Sharks. Die cuts Matthew Lodge for Manly. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. League Heads Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly. Bang Gerhamat Shabarski for the Broncos. Luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for the Storm. League Heads Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Gerhamat Shabarski for the Broncos. Die cut William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Gerhamat Shabarski for the Broncos. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Red Triumph for Manly. Luminous Keezy Apps for the Tigers. League Heads Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Bang Apsai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. League Heads Milwaukee Fodawaika for the Titans. Luminous Kalen Ponga for the Knights. League Heads Moses Leota for Panthers. Luminous Saya Yongi for the Eels. Oh, okay, open. Game Breakers Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Luminous Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Bang, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. League Heads, Greg Marschall for the Knights. Luminous, Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Gladiators, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos, number 352. Luminous, Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Game Breakers, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous, Hudson Young for the Raiders. League Heads, Joash for the Eagles. Leka Halasima, Luminous for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Tui Kamikamika for Storm. Luminous Hammer for the Dolphins. Bang, Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. League Heads, Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Luminous Nico Hines for the Sharks. Ali Latua for the Warriors. Luminous Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Game Breakers, Tortor Koala for Manly. Luminous Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Red Triumph, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Mercury Terrell May for the Tigers, number 388. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. League Heads, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Luminous Nelson Sofa Solomona for Storm. 3 packets left in the box. Game breakers, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Bang Dream Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. League heads, Leho Hopawate for Manly. And Luminous Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Box number 4. League heads, Ben Hunt for Broncos. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Game breakers, Tyron Wishart for Storm. Luminous Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Campbell Graham, league heads for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Die cuts, Marky Mark for Roosters. Luminous Sai Papalihi for Panthers. Game breakers, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Bang Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Alex Seyfarth for the Tigers. League heads, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Count Kolomatangi for the Raiders. Rabbitohs, even. How about that? Mercury, Brian Kelly for the Titans, number 188. Harley Latour, Luminous for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. League Heads, Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous, Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. Bang, Casey McLean for the Panthers. Luminous, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. League Heads, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous, Harry Grant for Storm. Die cuts, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous, Renato Mulatalo for the Sharks. Game Breakers, Keezy Apps for Tigers. Luminous, Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Red Triumph for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Zach Labour for the Cowboys. League Heads, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Loco for the Dragons. Bang, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous, Luke Brooks for Manly. League Heads, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Game Breakers, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Gladiators, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs, number 42. Luminous, Ben Trbojevic for Manly. Nico, League Heads for Sharks. Luminous, Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Bang, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous, Will Penasini for the Eels. Game breakers, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous, Jonah Pezzett for Storm. Die cut, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous, Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. League heads, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Game breakers, Sophie Hollyman for the Raiders. Luminous, Saratoga Tukey for the Tigers. League heads, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous, Connolly Loomy Lou for Dolphins. Game breakers, Billy Walters for the Broncos. Luminous, Samuel Stonestreet for the Sharks. Get open. Bang, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Tanila Paseka for Manly. League heads, Mitch Kenny for Panthers. Luminous, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Red Triumph for Reece Walsh. Luminous, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Game breakers, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous, Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. League heads, James Fisher Harris for the Warriors. Luminous, Cameron Munster for Storm. Die cuts, Luke Lawlilly for Tigers. Luminous, Brian Kelly for Titans. Bang, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous, Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Last packet, box number 4. We have Origin Predictor. Luminous, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Alright, not a bad way to finish off a box. League heads, Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. Game Breakers, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Toby Turbo for Manly. League heads, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Bang Tyron Wishart for Storm. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Roger Tuivasa Sheck for Warriors. League heads, Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Luminous Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. League heads, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous Terrell May for the Tigers. Die cuts, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. Game Breakers, Shaylee Bent for the Titans. Luminous Stefano Utakamanu for Storm. Bang Philip Sammy for Titans. Luminous KO Weeks for Raiders. League heads, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Luminous Bo Fermor for the Titans. Game Breakers, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Red Triumph for the Dolphins. Luminous Alex Twile for the Tigers. Die cuts, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Luminous Tyron Wishart for Storm. League heads, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. Game breakers, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Bang Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous Sam Verrills for the Titans. Gladiators, Alex Twal for the Tigers. Number 402. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. Die cuts Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Game breakers Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Bang Reese Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous Lachlan Ilias for the Dragons. League heads Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters. Die cuts Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. League heads Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Luminous Lawson Albert Jones for the Warriors. Bang KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous Reese Walsh for the Broncos. Game breakers Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Luminous Toltokawala for Manly. League heads Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Mercury Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Number 421. Luminous Payne Haas for the Broncos. League heads Marata Nakor for the Warriors. Luminous Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Game breakers, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. League heads, Jack Williams for the Eels. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. We've got 5 packets left for our 5th box. How about that? We have a die cut Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Jaden Campbell for the Titans. League heads, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Bang Sanua Taruva for the Tigers. Luminous Ethan Bullimore for Manly. Game breakers, Ben Trebojevic for Manly. Luminous Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. And last packet, box number 5. Red Triumph, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Kurt Capewell for the Warriors. Alright, tidy these up and get on to the next one. Give me some. Box number 6. League heads, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Excuse me, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Game breakers, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Nafor White for the Roosters. Die cut Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Die cut Billy Smith for the Roosters. Luminous Lindsay Smith for Panthers. League heads, Cameron McInnes for Sharks. Luminous Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Julia Robinson for the Broncos. Luminous, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Daly M, Rookie of the Year. Luminous, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. League heads, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Bang, Asai Katoa for the Dolphins. Luminous, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Luminous, RTS for the Warriors. League heads, Apasai Coruscant for the Tigers. Luminous, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Gladiators, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Number 537. Luminous, Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. League heads, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous, Terrell May for Tigers. Game breakers, Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous, Jack Williams for the Eels. Bang, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous, Stefano Uzikamanu for Storm. League heads, Brian Kelly for Titans. Luminous, KO Weeks for the Raiders. Mercury, Tamir Martin for the Warriors, number 74. Bo Fermor, Luminous for the Titans. Game breakers, Dane Gagai for the Knights. Luminous, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Die cut, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Alex Twal for the Tigers. Bang, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. League heads, Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous, Philip Semi for the Titans. League heads, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Red Triumph for the Cowboys. Luminous, Dane Gagai for the Knights. Bang, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous, Connor Watson for the Roosters. League heads, Jeremiah Nanite for the Cowboys. Luminous, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Game breakers, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Die cut, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Zahara Tamara for the Raiders. League heads, Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Brian To'o for Panthers. Game breakers, Chans Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Luke Lolili for Tigers. Bang, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous, Murray Talagi for the Cowboys. Red Triumph, Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. League heads, Hamoli Olika R2 for Manly. Luminous, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Get it open. Game breakers, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous, Tui Kamikamika for Storm. League heads, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Bang, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Luminous, Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. Box number 7. Game breakers, Bree Chester for the Cowboys. Luminous, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Bang, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. League heads, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Triumph for the Dragons. Luminous, Zahara Temera for the Raiders. Game breakers, Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Luminous, Brian Tar for Panthers. League heads, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous, Luke Lolelli for Tigers. Game breakers, Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Bang, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Game breakers, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. League heads, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous, Tui Kamika for Storm. Die cuts, Tolator Koala for Manly. Luminous, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. League heads, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous, Sean Kepe for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Bang, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Nafor White for the Roosters. League heads, Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous, Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Dally M Predictor in a wild card. Lindsay Smith, Luminous for Panthers. League heads, Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Red Triumph, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Mercury, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs, number 207. Luminous, Moses Leotta for Panthers. Game breakers, Hamoli Olaka-Atu for Manly. Luminous, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. League heads, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous, Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. Bang, Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Game breakers, Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Luminous, Dylan Lucas for Knights. League heads, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous, Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Die cut, Jack Hetherington for the Knights. Luminous, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Bang Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Hugo Savala for the Roosters. League heads AJ Brimson for the Titans. Taylor, g'day mate, how are we? Luminous Fa'alago for Storm. I thought they would have brought out a highlights set for Origin, but that didn't happen. Game Breakers, Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Gladiators, Dominic Young for the Knights. 87. Luminous Tamale for the Raiders. League heads Jareem Bula for the Tigers. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. Die cut Joash for the Eels. Luminous Samula Finu for the Tigers. Bang Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Luminous Ray Stone for the Dolphins. League heads Nathan Cleary for the Panthers. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous Philip Semi for Titans. 2 packets left for box number 7. Die cuts Aleka Halasima for the Warriors. Luminous Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. League heads Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. Tidy these ones up and get into the next. Die cuts Casey McLean for Panthers. Luminous Tyron Wishart for Storm. League heads Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous Kira Dib for the Cowboys. Oh, itchy, itchy. Red Triumph Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Oh. Game Breakers Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Sam Verrills for Titans. League Heads Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. Bang Largo for Storm. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. Game Breakers Big Tino for Titans. Luminous Felice Kafusi for Dolphins. Red Triumph Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders. League Heads Ethan Strange for Raiders. Luminous Lachlan Ilias for Dragons. Die Cuts Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous Billy Smith for Roosters. League Heads Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Lawson Albert Jones for the Warriors. Have you pulled any golden treasures in the breaks? Yes. I think we've only pulled one, maybe two golden treasures. To be honest, there may be more. If there is, then I'm telling a fib. I don't mean it. But yeah, we've pulled most of our golden treasures that we have opened in the breaks. Only pulled the Warriors one in the last break. Haven't pulled many though. Bang Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Reese Walsh for Broncos. Still been hoping that we can pull a double. Why we were just doing the case and start with the starter packs and the double hobby boxes. I was hoping that we managed to fluke a double, but now we're doing a full case of retail and a full case of the starter packs. Would definitely love to see a double. League Heads Jerome Hughes for Storm. Tolator Koala Luminous for Manly. It just takes me back to the double Master Series SIGs or a double Legends SIG. We were lucky enough to do that a couple of times. Game breakers, Abby Church for the Eels. Luminous, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Die cuts, Jack Williams for the Eels. Luminous, Payne Haas for the Broncos. League heads, Jacob Little for the Dragons. Luminous, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Game breakers, Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Luminous, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Gladiators, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Number 46. No, nobody does. Angus Crichton for the Roosters. League heads, Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. Luminous, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Game breakers, Ali Latua for the Warriors. Luminous, Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Bang, Zach Labert for the Cowboys. Luminous, Ethan Blimore for Manly. League heads, Connolly Loomy Lou for the Dolphins. Luminous, Jesse Colhoun for the Sharks. Die cuts, Lachlan Elias for the Dragons. Luminous, Kurt Catewell for the Warriors. Bang, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Cheers. Game breakers, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Die cuts, Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous, Jareem Buller for Tigers. League heads, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Xavier Coates for the Storm. Game breakers, Zach Labert for the Cowboys. Luminous Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. League Heads Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Dylan Egan for the Dragons. We're up to 6th last packet for box number 8. Bang Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Abby Church for the Eels. Game Breakers Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Luminous Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. League Heads Ezra Mam for Broncos. Luminous Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Mercury Jerome Hughes for Storm, number 245. Just a reminder, guys, we will be listing a break a day for the next 3 days at 4 p.m. Queensland time. Dylan Brown for the Knights. So we'll be starting with 467 today at 4 o'clock and ending with 469 at 4 o'clock on Friday. And that is the last of our 26 League Heroes breaks. League Heads Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous Clinton Gutterson for the Dragons. Once those breaks are sold out, that is it. No more. Till the next series. Bang Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ben Hunt for the Broncos. And listening to everyone's expectations of what they expect Series 2 to be, that alone I'm pretty excited to see what actually comes. So, time will tell. I think we'll probably see something end of July, end of August, somewhere in there, around August. Alright, let's have a go of this coffee. Alright, let's go. Bang Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Luminous Leka Halasima for the Warriors. Game Breakers Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Hammer for the Dolphins. Die cut Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Cohen Hess for Cowboys. League heads, Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous, Nico Hines for Sharks. Game breakers, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous, Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Bang, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. League heads, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous, Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Game breakers, Milwaukee Fodawaika for the Titans. Luminous, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Mercury, Lindsay Smith for the Panthers. 132. Luminous, Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. League heads, Sam Verrills for the Titans. Luminous, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Bang, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Apasai Coruscant for the Tigers. League heads, Chans Nicole Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Liam Martin for Panthers. Die cut, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. League head, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Game breakers, Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Luminous, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Just bear with me a sec, guys. I'm taking this jumper off. I'm starting to get a bit warm. Daily M Predictor. Luminous Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. League Heads Cody Nicarima for the Dolphins. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons. Red Triumph Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Alex Seyfarth for Tigers. Luminous Dream Buller for Tigers. League Heads Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous Xavier Coates for Storm. Bang Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Luminous Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. League Heads Alex Twal for the Tigers. Luminous Dylan Egan for Dragons. Gladiators Dylan Edwards for Panthers, number 151. Gotta catch them all. Luminous Abby Church for the Eels. Game Breakers Olivia Koenig for the Roosters. Luminous Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Bang Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Isaiah Yo for Panthers. League Heads Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Dylan Brown for the Knights. Die Cuts Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Game Breakers Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Red Triumph Hamoli Olika R2 for Manly. Luminous Sia Yongi for the Eels. We got 5th last packet in box number 9. League heads, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Bang Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Die cuts Sione Katoa for the Sharks. Luminous Jerome Luai for Tigers. Alright, last packet for the box. League heads Stefano Utikamanu for Storm. And Luminous Hudson Young for the Raiders. Box number 10. Game Breakers Trent LaRoe for Storm. Luminous Wade Egan for the Warriors. League heads Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Latu Finu for Tigers. Game Breakers Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Luminous Ezra Mam for Broncos. Bang Terrell May for Tigers. Luminous Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. League heads Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Luminous Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Die cuts Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Game breakers, Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous, Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Bang, Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous, Angelina for the Bulldogs. League heads, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Zach Lomax for the Eels. Die cuts, Adam Reynolds for Broncos. Luminous, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Game breakers, AJ Brimson for Titans. Luminous, Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Mercury, Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. 150. Billy Walters, Luminous for the Broncos. League heads, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Game breakers, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Greg Marshall for the Knights. Bang, Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Cooley Kefu for the Dolphins. League heads, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Tamir Martin, die cut for the Warriors. Luminous, Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Game breakers, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. League heads, Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Red Triumph, Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Luminous, Trent LaRoe for Storm. Die cut, Milwaukee Fodawaika for the Titans. Luminous, Jamal Fogarty for Manly. Game breakers, Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Luminous, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Daly M. League heads, Ronaldo Mulatalo for the Sharks. Luminous Murata Nakor for the Warriors. Bang Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Moses Leota for Panthers. Gladiators, Asaya Papalihi for Panthers, number 380. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. League heads, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Bang Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Dylan Lucas for the Knights. League heads, Terrell May for Tigers. Luminous Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Red Triumph Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. League heads, Gehamat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Hugo Savala for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Tegan Dimick for the Bulldogs. Luminous Falago for Storm. 4 packets left for box number 10. League heads, Alifiana Kampi Era for Titans. Luminous Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Die cuts, Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Luminous Tamale for the Raiders. League heads, Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. Bang Ronaldo Mulatalo for the Sharks. Luminous Fanua Pole for Tigers. Alright. That was box number 10. Tidy these up and get into box number 11. Gladiators, Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs, number 491. Luminous Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. League Heads, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous Isaac Tago for Panthers. Game Breakers, Asaya Yongi for the Eels. Luminous Alefiana Khan Piera for Titans. League Heads, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Addo Carr for the Eels. Game Breakers, Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Robert Toya for the Roosters. Die Cuts, Jojo Fafita for the Titans. Luminous Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Samima Torfa for the Raiders. League Heads, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Bang Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. League Heads, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous Damien Cook for the Dragons. Die Cuts, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Bang Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Dominic Young for the Knights. Game Breakers, Jalen DeGroot for Titans. Luminous Hamoli Olika R2 for Manly. League Heads, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Patricia for the Warriors. Luminous Milwaukee Photo Ika for Titans. Die cuts, Brendan Pakura for the Broncos. Luminous Ali Briganshaw for the Broncos. Red Triumph for the Tigers. Luminous Jesse Arabian for the Sharks. Mercury Dean Mariner for the Broncos, number 224. Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. League heads, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Game breakers, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. Bang Asaya Ayongi for the Eels. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. League heads, Val Holmes for Dragons. Luminous Chance Nico Clockstad for the Warriors. Triumph Teddy for the Roosters. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. League heads, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous William Kennedy for the Sharks. Game breakers, Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Die cuts, Liam Martin for the Panthers. Luminous Sean Russell for the Eels. League heads, Falago for Storm. Luminous Zali Hopkins for the Dragons. Bang Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Max Plath for Dolphins. Luminous Jermaine McEwen for Knights. League heads, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous Teddy for the Roosters. Oh, sorry guys. I just didn't want to sneeze everywhere. Bang, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Oh. Luminous Max Plath for Dolphins. Right, we are down to 5 packets in box number 11. Die cuts Jack Howarth for Storm. Luminous Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. League heads Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Game breakers Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Bang Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Last packet for the box. League heads Big Tino for Titans. And Tom Starling, Luminous for the Raiders. Alright. 1 box to go. Don't forget, after this one, we'll go through our hits that we have here. And then we'll take a short break and come back with part 2, which is the retail starters case. And we also randomize the bonuses at the end of that one. So just enough time to stretch my legs, have a coffee, go to the toilet. So somewhere between 15 minutes and half an hour break, and we'll be back live again to finish it off. Die cut Bo Fermor for the Titans. Luminous Georgia Hale for the Titans. I need my nose. Triumph Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous Josh Kerr for the Dragons. Game breakers Zaya Yo for Panthers. Luminous Ruben Garrick for Manly. Bang Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Mitch Kenny for the Panthers. League heads Ruben Cotter for Cowboys. Luminous Anfanua Blake for the Sharks. Game breakers Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Oh, get open. League heads Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Tyson Brazil for the Knights. Game breakers Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Jalen De Groot for Titans. Gladiators, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs, 172. Luminous, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. League heads, Regan Campbell-Gillard for the Titans. Luminous, Cassie Hiku for the Eels. Game breakers, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Die cuts, Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Luminous, Tommy Gilbert for the Dolphins. League heads, Fanua Pole for Tigers. Luminous, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Bang, Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous, Latu Fainu for Tigers. Game breakers, Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous, Ezra Mam for the Broncos. League heads, Anfanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous, Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Mercury, Lycan King Togia for the Dragons, number 40. Luminous, Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Die cuts, Oregon Kafusi for the Sharks. Luminous, Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Alright, halfway through box number 12 now. League heads, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous, Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Game breakers, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous, Angelina for the Bulldogs. League heads, Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Zach Lomax for the Eels. Bang, Greg Marschall for the Knights. Luminous, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. League heads, Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Luminous, Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Sean Kepe, a die cut for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Billy Walters for the Broncos. Game Breakers, Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Luminous Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Bang Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Greg Marschall for the Knights. League Heads, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Kulikefu for the Dolphins. Die cuts, Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. League Heads, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Bang Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Carl Lawson for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous Fanua Pole for Tigers. League Heads, Payne Haas for the Broncos. Luminous Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Triumph, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Trent LaRoe for Storm. League Heads, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Jamal Fogarty for Manly. Game Breakers, Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous AJ Brimson for the Titans. Alright, last pack for the case. Bang RTS for the Warriors. And Marata Nakor for the Warriors to finish it off. Alright, well, before we say goodbye for our break, let's go through these hits. Starting with the Golden Triumph, number 12. For the Dolphins, we have Hammer. Number 12 up there in the corner. Alright, next up we have our instant win. Brianne McLaughlin taking it home with the Tigers. Next up, State of Origin Predictor, number 88. And we have Ruben Cotter. So going to the Cowboys, Corey McRoberts. And Dally M rookie predictor number 94. This one's for the Dragons. Scott McBride. Right, 3 to go. Dally M predictor number 36 is a wild card for the Warriors. Two to go. Number 227 for the Broncos, Adam Reynolds. And the last big hit out of our case, number 84, Dally M predictor for the Knights, Phoenix Crossland. Alright guys, well as mentioned, I am going to take a short break and have another coffee, stretch those legs, and we'll come back and finish the break with the starter case. So don't go far guys, we will be back